What was the best karma is a bitch moment you have witnessed? I was in daycare as a child. I had very long hair that my dad always put into a ponytail. There was a girl that would pull my ponytail all the time. We were doing a musical chairs thing at the end of the day while parents were picking us up. The girl was behind me and kept yanking my ponytail. I kept telling her to stop. The teacher didn't see anything, so I can't do anything about it. There were a bunch of parents waiting for us to finish our game. My mom included, and she kept doing it and the teacher didn't see it, so I turned around and punched her as hard as I could. She stumbled into the cubbies where we kept our coats. The teacher tried to chastise me and my mom was like, nope. I didn't see anything. Didn't even get in trouble. I was running laps on a grass field in the military when I was about to lap a guy who'd always lap the shit out of me. So as I passed him I yelled, "Gotcha, bitch," and immediately stepped in a hole in the ground and twisted my ankle. Despite the pain of jacking my ankle up, I thought the karmic payout was hilariously timed. My old manager was a monster. Belittled people. Made a hostile environment. Denied anything that would make co-workers happy while giving himself every comfort. Even denied me a half day to go to my mother's funeral. Would it be a big deal if you can go? He finally stepped on his dick after he wrote up a fictitious counseling statement about someone and the entire office revolted. The manager wasn't fired like we wanted, but he was relieved. So in comes the new manager. Very well regarded. 20-year Air Force veteran, retired at 89. Humble guy who knew how to handle people. We have our first awkward team meeting. Old manager bitterly in attendance. As the new manager is giving his nice to meet you speech, he sees the douchebag glaring around the table trying to intimidate people. He stops talking, pauses for a few seconds, and then says, "You know, when I was in the Air Force I learned that if you take care of your people, they'll take care of you." He then stared directly at the old manager and said, "And if you don't take care of your people, they'll take care of you." Sitting on a highway late at night because of a bad car accident. The highway was packed and barely moving. One guy thinks he's smarter than everyone else and tries to drive on the shoulder. He makes it a good little ways before running into an on-ramp. Also packed with cars. He had nowhere to go. And no one let him in. He was stuck between cars in the rightmost lane and cars from the on-ramp. Everyone stuck bumper to bumper and flowed around him. I went from watching him pass me and almost getting out of my view to passing him and losing sight of him in my rear view. He had nowhere to go. And no one let him in. I love highway justice. My husband and I call people like that the dick of the mile. Because there's always one. When I was a kid, we visited Montreal. I had gotten a hockey puck as a souvenir. While we were in our hotel, my sister decided to mess with me by hiding it. I got mad and yelled in my high-pitched voice, "Give me back my hockey puck," before smacking her in the head with a pillow. Guess where she had hidden it? Driving to Chicago and a crazy guy is road raging, swerving erratically while yelling about shooting us. He zooms off. 5 or so miles later we see his van upside down in the ditch. He's standing on the shoulder talking to a cop. Shoulder pulled over and said, "Hey, about you threatening to shoot me back there. Sorry, but you were going so fast I couldn't keep up. But hey, you're welcome to give it a shot now." I got rear-ended in a turn lane by a girl texting. She was doing 45 miles per hour and I was stopped. No major injuries. I went to her court date hoping she got a big fine or something. She got a $50 ticket. I was a little bit upset. As I was sitting at the stoplight to pull out of the court I watched her run a red light and bone a cop. I don't normally laugh at other people's misfortune. However, I laughed my ass off at that one. When I was driving my Jeep very carefully in a snowstorm and someone in a Mustang passed me in an unsafe manner. He almost lost control of his car, which would have caused an accident that included me. Picture someone dangerously fishtailing right in front of you with an 18-wheeler coming at you in the other lane. Saw him in the ditch about 5 minutes later. Idiot. On my drive back from school I witnessed a car run a red light in front of a cop. The car was subsequently pulled over. I pointed laughing and then immediately smashed into the car in front of me. I work in an ER and once a girl got brought in by ambulance after being assaulted. She was walking down the street when some guy tackled her to the ground and tried to drag her down an alley. A good Samaritan managed to chase him off and call the cops. Like 20 minutes later they brought in a guy in full cardiac arrest. Turns out the police found the attacker and chased him several blocks when he collapsed and his heart gave out. He was dead on arrival and the victim ID'd him right in the ER. I was kicking a customer out for being racist and cursing at one of my employees. He yelled offensive stuff all and then he tried to slam the door on his way out. But it had one of those things on it that makes the door close slowly. He pushed it hard. It didn't budge and he slipped and fell on the floor. We had a good laugh. The correct name for that thing is a door slowly closer. When my ex-husband who stole $4,000 from me to go visit his mistress in another country called me to beg for money, actually my credit card number, as if, because his lights got cut off. The other day I was taking my dog for a walk around the neighborhood. She squatted down to take a shitty and I reached for my doggy bags only to realize I was fresh out. So I peeked around making sure nobody was looking. And I just left it. 10 minutes later I'm walking across the road and I cut through a thin grass median in the center and what do you know? I step in dog shitty. I wasn't even mad. I knew I deserved it. When I was in first grade, my class had recess and this bully pushed me to the ground. I fell and was about to go off on the kid when this 4th grader came over, lifted the kid up and took the kid over to the principal. Karma's the shitty. I was at a party one time, and this one girl couldn't stop talking shitty about this other girl that was coming to the party. The other girl shows up and this dude picked her up and hugged her and spun her around in a way where her foot kicked the girl that was talking shitty right in the head face while she was sitting on the couch. Her beer spilled all over her and she caught a black eye. Contagious black eyes are the worst. A classmate in school broke one of his legs and was using crutches. He was about to go down the stairs and another kid kicked one of his crutches down the stairs. I walked down there and got his crutch for him, and while walking back up, the kid who kicked the crutches came tumbling down and I moved out of the way. The kid broke his arm. Last Saturday I was on a crowded Nick subway at 2 AM. Two drunk dudes, young 20s, lighting a joint and walking around flaunting it. One literally came up to me, "You think a pothead ain't gonna smoke a joint?" Whatever that means. Close bracket. The whole train kept ignoring them. And they kept parading around being a bunch of morons. They spotted two taller, athletic looking dudes and started making fun of them for looking like cops. Double quote. It was the line, "Which one of you is the sergeant?" That finally put the athletic guys over the edge. They looked at each other, smiled, reached into their pocket and pulled out their badges. "Okay boys, empty your pockets." Double quote. The subway blew up in laughter. They would have gotten away with everything if they just didn't go bother the two plainclothes police officers. Score one for the good guys. And then I went home and smoked a joint in my living room. When I was a kid I threw a basketball into a puddle in front of a friend of mine, splashing him. I'm walking backwards, pointing and laughing. I then turn around right into a pole and knock myself out. My dad kicked our dog because it was standing in front of the fridge and he wanted a beer. But as soon as he opened the fridge, the shelf that was holding the beer fell off and every single can busted open. Woman on a cell phone runs me off the road. Flips me off for laying on the horn. The road dead ends a mile up the road. She was going right and I was a ways back going left. A van was in front of her at the red light and she just plows into the back of it. I slow down as I passed with the window down. Running me off the road wasn't enough to get your attention. Hot. Double quote. She flips out. I laugh and drive off into the sunset. My brother was making fun of an old man slowly shuffling across a parking lot. Look at Speedy Gonzales or something in 2 seconds after my brother, bashes his foot on the cement parking barrier. He limped back to the car as I laughed hysterically. Guy who used to make fun of me in middle school turned into the kid all the teachers made jokes about. Seeing that asshole who continues to swerve in and out of traffic, speed like no other, and cut you and others off multiple times get pulled over. I work for a contracted unloading service in a warehouse. One of the guys on my crew is an absolute little bitch sometimes. Complains about his work. Tries to leave early every day. Bums cigarettes off everyone without ever bringing his own pack. Etc. He even owes some of my other co-workers money, I believe. But I digress. On Thursday, he lost his tea over a produce load and threw a temper tantrum. Kicking boxes, tearing down tall pallets of product, and causing a lot of damage. Right as the site manager walked by his trailer door. Got suspended without pay and was told he is on his last chance with the company. Now it's only a matter of time before he gets fired. Sweet. Sweet. Karma. Had a moron driver in a Porsche convertible tailgating me on a 6-lane highway. I wasn't in the far right lane, but I was in the middle, so he still could have passed if he wanted to. He finally passes me and blows his horn at me as he blows past. We get on the Chesapeake Bay Bridge and it immediately starts torrentially pouring. There was nowhere for him to stop, so he had to drive a several mile long bridge with his top down the whole way. A shy, meek, new kid on the block I used to pick on beat the shit out of me. I was 10 and he was 12. We lived on same street and he would walk past my house on the way home from school. After several days of teasing him, he paused and stared into my eyes. I walked up towards the driveway and got in his face. At which point he unleashed the craziest barrage of punches and kickboxing combinations that I simply did not expect. I took a few to my eye and bloodied my face. Needless to say, he made me cry and run away like a bitch. This was one of the most transformational experiences of my life. It taught me self-control, humility, and absolute respect for the hidden strengths of people around me. With glee, I ran over a bee on my tricycle once. Aimed for it on purpose and then splat. Minutes later I got called into the house and I stepped on that same bee. Stuck with stinger up in my bare feet. It hurt so badly. I told my mom everything and she told me I got exactly what I deserved. I agreed. A co-worker of mine, who I actually like, was riding passenger in a small crane rig. When he got on site he went to get out of the truck and start talking shitty. And in the middle of saying hey I didn't know they sent the Girl Scout, slipped and fell out of the cab and landed face first in the mud. It was insta karma. This is from my younger years. A friend of mine had a cousin visiting around Victoria Day in Canada, aka Firecracker Day. When I went to visit him, I was told he was in the backyard. I go back there and he and his cousin are setting off firecrackers. They have a big bowl of loose firecrackers. I ask if I can set a couple off as well, and both my friend and his cousin start tossing lit firecrackers at me while laughing. I figure that they are both acting like greedy assholes. So I decided to leave. Just as I'm about to leave, a spark gets into the bowl. The entire bowl of firecrackers ignite, leaving only a few unexploded. This lasted about 10 or 15 seconds. The stunned look on my friend and cousin's face was pure karma as a bitch. I'm laughing at them. I'm sure they planned a whole afternoon of setting them off. I was working at a summer camp this past summer, and all the male campers and staff were playing dodgeball while the girls' cabins did their own girl night kind of thing. It was campers and JR. Staff versus staff. And it was kinda nearing the end of the night. So the rules for the staff were that if you got hit, you were done with no way of revival. I looked across the gym and saw that one of my fellow staff was hit and laying on the ground with his hands behind his head. So naturally I grab a dodgeball, sneak around behind him keeping myself out of his field of view, and throw the ball at his dick. As I was laughing and running away, It bounced off his dick and, without hesitation, he brought his leg up and kicked the ball as hard as he could. And it hit me straight in the face with enough force to knock me off my feet. My son's abuser walked free in court. None of our mutual friends believed he could do something like that. So I was socially shunned after the hearing as well. Not long afterwards, the man was hit by a car and spent 9 months in a coma before finally dying of a MRSA infection in his lungs. I don't want to say I'm glad he suffered, because the kind of person to do something like that to a child is already tortured along their own karmic path. The reason I'm relieved he's gone is because my son will never be hurt by that man. His father. Again. Neighbors on the balcony next door having a smashing time throwing bottles to the sidewalk. Can't get any sleep and I have to wake up at 7:30 am. Make the decision to get my rest and request officers to survey the scene. Watching from my window I see 3 fratties picking up glass under the flashlights of 2 deputies. With this issue resolved. Last spring I didn't get a date to the junior prom. I wasn't thrilled but I figured I'd go stag. I found the perfect dress and was actually really excited. Then my group of friends said I couldn't come with them. Why? I didn't have a date and it would ruin the pictures if I stood by myself. And since I wasn't going to be in the pictures, they said, wouldn't it just be so awkward for me to get ready with them and be at Claudia's, the ringleader, house beforehand? And of course, wouldn't I just be so uncomfortable being the only one in the limo with no boyfriend? And what would I do afterwards anyways? I mean everyone knows what happens at the parties after prom. So I didn't go at all. Guess whose limo never showed up? Not my story but my mom's. Apparently when she was a young lass, there was a girl at school who was always a major bitch to her. Hated my mom for whatever reason and always made fun of her. Fast forward to my mom as a college age woman now dating a guitarist from Bob Marley's band. Out at a bar with him getting a drink. Dude goes to the bathroom and said bitch from back in the day comes up to my mom and says, OMG. Did you see who is here? At that moment, dude comes and puts his arm around my mom and says hey babe. What's happening? She said the look on that girl's face was priceless. This guy in a sporty car tailgating me on the highway. I'm in the right lane and already going over the speed limit. He won't pass me but is riding my bumper. Suddenly there is a huge chink of lumber in the road right in front of me. Possibly a 6 inches x 6 inches chunk of wood about 3 feet long, possibly blocking that fell off a flatbed truck. I swerved to miss it but the guy behind me ran over it. I saw his car jump up and a cloud of smoke as he slowed down to a stop. At school, one kid threw a pencil at the teacher. The pencil hit the teacher in the face. The teacher whipped it back and it hit the kid in the face. Ex-wife cheated on me while I was deployed. Drained our bank accounts. And sold all my tools. 2 snap-on rollaways filled with tools. After we divorced she lost her job. Totaled her car. The guy she cheated with left her. Her mom died and she lost her apartment. Yeah, karma can be a bitch. Late to the party but this happened to me. When I was younger, high school, my city had automatic sprinklers in most of the parks and areas with grass. They would turn on automatically at like 3 or 4 am. So being a young dumb kid, me and my friends figured out if you kicked them hard enough the top would break off and the sprinkler would full force shoot a huge stream into the air from then on. We thought it was hilarious and were never caught. We kept on with this until one day they started replacing them with new super strong steel ones. I kicked one and broke my big toe and while in agony rolled my ankle so f***ing bad it was bruised up for a week and has never been the same. When I was in middle school I was sitting at lunch with my normal lunch group. There wasn't enough room for this one guy at the table so he sat at the table next to us by himself. One of our friends felt bad so he left our table and sat next to him. The kid who was originally sitting by himself moved to our table. Took the other guy's old spot and leaving the other guy completely alone. We all moved to the other table and left him alone again.